Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Malicious Compliance. Our first post is by the frustrated poet. If you leave the ward, we will discharge you. This is a story from over a decade ago, which has always stuck with me, and that I was reminded of by another post here. In 2011, my darling daddy had to have surgery to remove one of his kidneys due to a large cyst. 2 days after his surgery, while he was on the ward recovering, he began to feel unwell. But thankfully, it was something he was used to that could be resolved easily: heart palpitations. Now Dad has been having heart palpitations since the mid-90s, and while it was scary in the early days, by 2011, it was a really simple routine. Go to A&E and get an injection from the cardiac team at the hospital. Sometimes he would have a normal sinus rhythm, but would be having palpitations nonetheless, identified by the feeling in his body. The doctor on shift took an ECG and promptly informed him that he was not having a heart palpitation. He had a normal sinus rhythm. He tried to explain that he had been having palpitations for 15 years. He knows what a palpitation feels like, and that all she needed to do was call the cardiac team. This was a semi-regular occurrence about once a year, and the heart nurses all knew him by name and loved him. He's quite a character. The doctor refused to page the cardiac team, repeating that he wasn't having palpitations. For a couple of hours, Dad sat there in panic, getting more and more distressed. It was outside of visiting times, so he was alone. He told the doctor that he would make his own way to the cardiac team, and she told him, "If you leave the ward, we will consider you absconded, and we will formally discharge you again." This was 2 days after losing a major organ. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. Dad called 999 from his hospital bed. When they asked for his address, he said, "That's an interesting question. Normally it's X, but right now I'm on Ward X at X hospital." Shocked, the call handler asked what had happened, and Dad relayed the whole thing to them. The call handler escalated the call to a manager who asked to speak to Dad's doctor and gave her a massive dressing down. Her face grayed as she realized the gravity of what was happening. She immediately arranged for a porter to take him to A&E, UK emergency room, to be assessed by the cardiac team. And what do you know? He was, in fact, having palpitations and had been for several hours. A quick injection later, his heart was back to normal, and we were all left stunned by the whole thing. I was in my 20s at the time, and Dad was my superhero, and seeing him crying in a hospital bed, looking so scared and small, will never leave me. I will never forget what that doctor did, and I'll never forgive her. She never even apologized to him or to us. Dad could probably have taken the hospital, the doctor, and the trust to court, but that's just not his bag, and he just let it go like water off a duck's back. 12 years later, and he's healthy and happy. But I honestly thought I might lose him because of an arrogant doctor and her stubbornness. Our next post is by 1mm off. Wife complains I don't clean while I cook, so I proceed to sparkle the kitchen instead of making dinner. I, 33M, often do the cooking at home, including the washing up that happens after. My wife, 34F, does not usually cook. We established that by our second date years ago. I love her to bits, but she is a culinary disaster, and time and sweat has failed to make improvements. It is a lost battle. The sequence of dinner prep usually starts as soon as I finish work. This involves chopping meat, vegetables, and rounding up anything that was previously marinated or thawed. This is immediately followed by cooking and then serving to be eaten hot. It seems logical to me that meals should be enjoyed while they are fresh, and cleaning up can wait, especially if the kitchen is not being used by anyone else in the interim. I am also the one who normally does the washing after everyone has eaten, and I wash all the cutlery and cooking prep stuff in the same process. This is done while my wife settles our toddler into bed. I prefer this setup because I can get all the washing done in one go, and everyone can eat their meals at the same time together while it is fresh. I do not like washing the pans, pots, wok, after cooking and before eating. My wife, however, seems to get annoyed at this. Every now and then while I am cooking, if she walks in, she will start complaining, making notes that I should pack this and that up, that I should clean the board while waiting for the stir-fry to finish. Sometimes there is literally no downtime for certain dishes, especially with several to serve before it gets too late for the toddler. To be clear, I certainly clean some things as I go, especially when it concerns raw meat or things that need to go back into the fridge. I'll wipe down if there's any offensive spills, but for things like chopping boards, certain empty packages, or condiments, I will leave them on the bench top until I am done, or when I am washing up. Things that I feel don't pose risks or have any urgency to be put away, other than making the kitchen look tidy during cooking. Happy to be proven wrong. Anyway, one day, for whatever reason, my wife got real snarky at me because I left the chopping board out next to the pans, saying it's not hard to clean as I cook. Whatever, fine. So for the next meal, I made sure to clean everything I touched as I started my meal prep. I had already made sure the little one had her dinner, so there's no harm in drawing this out. Need to open that can of pasta sauce? Better wash down the can opener and dry it before we start. Gotta wipe down the whole kitchen top too. Oops, dropped a garlic clove. I'd better give the whole kitchen floor a good scrub. Is that a bit of charred residue on the stove? Okay. Better degrease the entire area. You get my drift. Wife has put the little one to sleep by now. So 3 hours later, the kitchen is sparkling. Literally. Pasta has not entered water, and the sauce materials have not touched the pan. Wife asks where's dinner. I tell her I haven't started cooking because I still need to clean the fridge. There were some stains under the tomato tray. She went back to bed. I still cooked and packed her lunch. I've not been harassed since. Edit. There's no expectation for my wife to clean. I've made it clear that I'm happy to do it as I clean up messes I make. We split our duties, so she spends that time on other things that need attention around the house. Our next post is by Zambia Guy. We only do deliveries over the phone. Well, okay. So I went to a famous Portuguese chicken chain restaurant takeaway. They are known for doing deliveries in my area, especially during the COVID-19 outbreak. My grandparents live alone and aren't taking any visitors due to the outbreak. Now I was close to the restaurant and I wanted to order a meal for my grandparents without me having to go to their house because that would involve me physically meeting them, whereas the restaurant delivery would adhere to strict COVID-19 prevention measures. At the restaurant, I placed my order and asked for it to be delivered to their house. The robot-like cashier said that it wouldn't be possible to deliver food to a house when the customer orders the food at the restaurant. I thought it was a misunderstanding and made it clear that I would pay the full delivery charge and that all that would change is the manner in which the food was ordered. I didn't want my grandparents to have to pay for the meal and also didn't want to meet them due to COVID-19. After pleading and quite a frustrating back and forth with the cashier, she raised her voice at me and said, "Sir, we only do delivery orders over the phone. Cue malicious compliance." With a wide smile on my face, I thanked her and stepped away from the till. I called the delivery number, only for her to answer the call right in front of me. I placed the entire order all over again whilst we stared at each other in what must have been humiliating for her. Her colleagues at this point all began staring and some giggling. After placing the order, I once again went up to her and asked her to pay for the order I just placed. She, at this point, saw the silliness of the situation and let me pay just to be done with all this. Suffice to say, my grandparents managed to eat the chicken. Our next post is by Ancient Educator. That's not the right amount of Frosties. By all means, let me fix that for you. I'm training to be a manager at your friendly neighborhood Mendy's. I usually do drive-through, but here I am being asked to do a refund at the lobby register because I know how. A Southern, like if Alex Guarnaschelli played pickleball or something, lady ordered 4 baggy bags, her words, with an extra Frosty. All chocolate. Okay, cool. We make her all of her food, and last second she decides, you know what? I don't want those, they don't look chocolatey enough. Not at all. Okay, fine. We comply, and instead of making the lady give me the credit card to refund the full meal, then ring her up for the meal without the Frosties, about a 50-cent upcharge per, I simply ring up 4 medium Frosties as a direct refund. This amount has her getting back $12.99. She immediately complained and shouted, "Hey, asshat, that's not the right amount of Frosties. Enter the right amount of effing Frosties, and don't cheap out on me." This was roughly translated because it was a heated moment, but she mentioned something about me being cheap. Also, I never been called an asshat before. I'm honored. I was about to explain that she was getting a refund that's worth half her meal, but the asshat didn't sit right with me and made the malicious compliance adjustment. You know what, you're right. You had 5 Frosties, the upcharges for the meals, and then the extra one, right? Okay, let me fix that. I took a long time to figure out how to make the refund happen, which required me to take her card multiple times, and then show her that I refunded her for her 1 full-price Frosty at $2.13, and then 4 more Frosties at 50 cents each, so it's $4.13 back to her. "Oh, that can't be right," she exclaims. I told her just how wrong she was, showing her receipts as she realized what a mistake she made, as her food just kept getting as cold as my Frosty-flavored heart. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.